Welcome to Real Estate Radio Live, an informative and engaging podcast discussing everything you need to know about the world of real estate. Your host, Joe Caccera, provides you with insight and guidance on how to buy, sell, finance, and invest in real estate. He also offers real estate tax management strategies, new construction advice, home improvement tips, and much, much more. And now, to guide you around the world of real estate, here's your host and Real Estate Radio Live team leader, Joe Caccera.
Welcome in, Joe Caccera with Real Estate Radio Live. Thank you for those that are following us on Facebook. I appreciate that very much. We continue to grow the audience on our Facebook channel, and I want to just throw out again a thank you to those that continue to participate. We grow that, and each and every show is getting a lot more audience and feedback and information from the source of the Facebook feed, which is great. So that's what we want to try to do. However, remember that this is a podcast, so we try to get the exposure as much as we can for those people to get the information. But if you haven't done so yet, if you're watching this now, or if you're watching it later, and if you haven't downloaded the podcast, please go and download the podcast. You go to iTunes and just type in Real Estate Radio Live. You could do that anywhere online, and you could find the podcast, download it, and then you could follow the show at your convenience when you want on your mobile device as well. The focus has been the same for almost 8 years, and that's education and information. That is my commitment, me and the team here at Real Estate Radio Live. Our guests, the content, is to deliver it to you, the consumer, on a regular basis, and we hope there's value that we continue to bring in that content, that information, these interviews, and we work real hard to make that happen. So, as usual, if there's any feedback, we always get great feedback. We get requests sometimes for guests. We get requests for topics sometimes. So if there's something in the real estate arena that you'd like to hear, or you're unsure about, or you'd like to know more about, shoot me an email, a text, go to the website and let us know. Also, while I'm on this topic, we also help out nonprofits and many companies and organizations that are trying to get the message out for a great cause. We do that on a regular basis. We call it here at Real Estate Radio Live the Giving Back segment. And we've had a number of different companies and organizations on to talk about, how we could help them as a community raise money, raise awareness to whatever cause that may be. So that's a standing invitation to everybody out there that's listening to this. And I mean this. If you have a cause, an organization, if you have someone that you're trying to get the word out, you would like to see them on the show, on the podcast, to help them get the information out, help them raise money. There's thousands and thousands of great causes right here in the Bay Area. And the reason I do this on a regular basis is because this is a community. We all live in this community. We work in this community. And so even though this is a real estate radio show, this is a real estate podcast, I want to invite in the community, the very same people that do business in this community, that live in this community and work in there, to be able to take advantage if we could help. We all should try to help whenever we can. And this is just one of the small parts that we could do here at Real Estate Radio Live. So, again, if you're listening to this podcast and you have yourself, family member, friend, coworker, maybe you have someone that's really trying to raise money or awareness on a cause, reach out and let me know. I'd love to have them on the show. I really would. And I'll do whatever I can. I can't promise everybody, but we'll do whatever we can for sure. So I just wanted to make sure to bring that up. All right, let's jump into the topic today. It is going to be buying and selling season is here, and is here in a big way. And I want to just kind of review from a buyer's perspective and seller's perspective what to think about right now. This is the time of the year things really start heating up, not only obviously in the weather. The weather's getting a little better. Looks like we got a stretch of sunshine here now for the next several weeks, which is great, and it's welcome because we've gotten a lot of rain. We've needed it for sure, but I think most people are tired of it, and let's move on and get some sunshine. So when the weather changes, the housing market typically changes, and it's starting to do so. We've seen a lot more homes come on the market, so I want to talk a little bit today about, first, the buyer's perspective, how to prepare as a buyer. And then I'm going to talk a little bit how to prepare as a seller. And we do shows like this probably 2 or 3 times a month. So if it sounds familiar or similar to some of the stuff we've done, it probably is, because during certain times of the year that I really think that it's important to get information out on a regular basis, I'll do that. So I hope if some of you listen to the show, you think, gosh, Joe, I heard something like this 2 or 3 weeks ago. You may have, and the reason why, it's by design. I will do more shows on a certain topic if I think it's really warranted and people need that information, and I think that is the case right now. So I want to talk a little bit about, from a buyer's perspective, why is it a good time to be a buyer and some of the things around it. So a couple things. It's a good time to be a buyer because interest rates are still really good. They've come down a little bit, and actually there's some outlooks and some rumors and some speculation that we could get interest rates even lower here. The Fed might even talk about, I think, matter of fact, they had an announcement today. I haven't read those notes yet to see. There is even talk of potentially lowering the prime. I'm not sure if that happened or not. I'll have to go back and see how that conversation and that Fed meeting went this afternoon. So, buyers, it's a great time because interest rates are low. That means money is reasonably cheap. It's a great time for that. Also, remember, several years ago, leading up until last year, it's been an extreme nightmare for buyers. What I mean by that is if you were in the market or you weren't in the market, let me just explain to you, the last 3 or 4 years, if you're in it, you know about it. If you weren't, let me explain it to you real quickly. It is such an extreme hot seller's market that it was almost impossible for buyers to get in there and make an offer without being outbid by 15-20% and not have a chance at a home. So the other reason it's a good time for a buyer is because you actually have more inventory now. It's not a crazy, crazy hot seller's market like it was a couple of years ago. So you have an opportunity. You have a better chance to get into a home. And that's another reason why the timing is right now is really good to be a buyer. The other thing that's going to happen in the Bay Area here in the next several months, and most of you have probably heard about it. I've posted a lot of this, and I've really shared a lot of this on social media and on my website and other things, and that is we have this IPO wave going on in 2019 here in the Silicon Valley. There's, I think, at least 5 or 6 companies and well-known companies you may have heard already that either have filed or are going to be coming out with IPOs this year. We've already had a couple. There's a couple more on the way. And the reason I bring that up, the reason why it's pertinent to this conversation and this topic is that when there's an IPO, what happens is there's a lot of employees and a lot of people all of a sudden that come into a lot of money. And a lot of money they have access to that they did not have access to before. Usually what that equates to is housing market. What that equates to is additional disposable income, right? All of a sudden someone comes into hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, now that they have at their disposal. One of the first things they think about doing, if they haven't already done so, is buying a home, buying a vacation home, buying rental property. A lot of people, when they have large sums of money, part of their plan, part of their strategy is, what can I do in real estate? I already have a primary residence. Maybe I could buy a second home at the beach. Maybe I could buy a second home in the mountains. Maybe I can buy an investment property in Texas, a fourplex in Colorado. These are the types of conversations people have when they have disposable income and when they come into a lot of money. So this is going to be happening over the next through here in 2019. Just know that this is going to affect the market. It may not seem like it's affecting it right now, but it will have this ripple effect, I guarantee you, over the next 7 to 8, 9 months. You will see the housing market change, and you'll see a lot additional buyers come into the market and sellers because of these IPOs. And when I say sellers, remember, if a person already owns a home and they come into a large sum of money and now they could afford to move up, that home that they're in now that's worth $1 million, they may want to go buy a $2 million home. So it affects not only the new potential buyers, but it affects the current homeowners as they may move up and they may sell their home or rent their home. So there's a lot of dynamics that go on here. So this is another reason why I would encourage you buyers to get out sooner than later. Because if this market has another wave and we don't have the inventory to support it, it could go to a super, super strong seller's market again, and then a lot of the buyers could be locked out. And this is my only concern for the buyers. And this is what I would say, if you're a potential buyer, get out and do it now, or get out and try to do it in the next 30 to 60 days. It doesn't mean that if the timing's not right for you that you should jump and do it. That's not what I'm suggesting. I'm saying if it's in your forecast, in your plan, that you wanted to be a buyer, that you wanted to buy a property, I would do it sooner than later because of some of the things I'm talking about right now. You could have a more flooded market. You could have a more aggressive market. If you all of a sudden you have a large amount of buyers flooding the market in a short period of time, that could affect things here in the Bay Area for sure, just as I talked about for these IPOs. So last thing on buyers before I jump into sellers, make sure you're pre-approved and make sure you have all the buying power possible when you're out there working with the right agent and the right lender, okay? So make sure you do that. Remember, real quick, you don't want a pre-qualification. You don't want someone to say, oh, yeah, don't worry, you're approved. You want someone to review all your income, asset, and credit. You want them to review all that information and then give you approval based on that being underwritten and a pre-approval. That's what you want is an underwritten approval, okay? So real quick, to summarize, great time to be a buyer. The reason why, interest rates are low, cost of money, it's a great time to do that. Secondly, the market is such that it's not an extreme seller's market like it was, so buyers, you have more opportunity. You might even be able to put in contingent offers. There's more possibilities of you getting to a home now than there was the last 3 or 4 years, and I'd love to see you do that and take advantage of that and not miss out. Third and last, make sure you're working with the right lender and the right real estate agent. As always, if you need information on lending, that's what I do. Contact me. I could help you with that. Even if you need suggestions, you need feedback, anything like that, I could help you. Also, if you're looking for a real estate agent, we have a great group of real estate agents we work with. We're happy to refer them to you as well. All right, let's talk in the next 7-10 minutes here about sellers. So sellers, there's 2 parts to selling. There's a part about selling your home, and then once you sell your home, then typically 70% of you become buyers. Some people sell their home, and they cash out, and they go somewhere else and they rent. Some people sell their home, and they don't buy for a while. So there's a percentage of people that sell and don't repurchase and have. So roughly 70 to 75% of people in the Bay Area that sell, they go buy. So they repurchase. So let's first talk about sellers. This is a great time also to be a seller. You heard me a few minutes ago say that it's not a crazy extreme seller's market, but that's good for the market in general, I believe, my personal opinion, because it allows both sides to hopefully get what they want in a win-win situation. So sellers, if you have a home priced right in the right area, your house is going to sell. Now the difference is set expectations. Don't get into this thought process that you're going to get 20-30% over asking on your home, because it probably won't happen now like it was a couple of years ago. So if your neighbor's bragging about what they got for their home and they're telling you what they did, please keep in mind, first of all, that was a year or so ago. Second of all, people have a propensity to mislead or tell white lies, and they always want to make their situation better. So be careful of that, and be careful listening to your neighbors and friends. Great time to sell. If the house is priced right and it's a good location, your house will still move. Guaranteed. Now, of course, nothing's guaranteed, but you get my point. If you work with a real estate agent that understands how he or she prices that property and it's priced right, then if it's in a good area, the house is going to sell. And I think it's still going to sell in a relatively short period of time. No one knows how long, but, it is, just because there's demand out there still for good homes in good areas that are priced right. Try not to make the mistake of price it too high. I know some people don't listen to good real estate agents, and they say the real estate agents show them all the comps. I see this all the time. Real estate agents do all their work. They show them the comps. They said, listen, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, based on these comps, your home's probably worth 1.2, 1.25. Here's what I'd do. I'd come in and I'd put it in at 1.95. Let's get it in right underneath 1.2, okay? 1.19 or something. Let's get it right underneath 1.2, because then I think you have some room there, and it will probably go for a little bit more, but you don't want to overprice it. And then the borrower, or I should say the sellers, say, no, wait a minute. My neighbor just told me blah, 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 blah. And next thing you know, they say to the real estate agent, listen, if you want to list this home, I'm going to list it for 1.3. And you say, listen, you might get 1.3, but the only reason you're going to get 1.3 is if the market bids that up. I doubt if you'll get 1.3 because you're actually overpricing in a market that's not as hot as it was a couple of years ago. So this is where people get in trouble. And some people will say something like this, which, again, it's not a right or wrong. Depends on what you want to do. And if the real estate agents want to, waste their time or their reputation. But if someone fights that and says, you know what, I just want to put it on for 1.3 and see what happens, it's not a good strategy. And I know what people are thinking. I do. I understand it. Some people are thinking, well, Joe, you don't know. Someone might come up and offer me 1.3 for that house. You don't know that, Joe. That's true. I don't know that. No one could tell you they will or they won't. But what we can tell you is statistics and data. What it tells us and shows us is that it's very unlikely that if you don't price your house appropriately and the way it should be in the marketplace, there is a really good chance that your house may sit on the market a long time or may not sell at all if people start getting a little bit skeptical about the price points. Because here's what happens. If you overprice your house, if you put it on the market too high, you've heard me say this before, and it sits for 30, 60 days and nothing happens, and all of a sudden you drop the price, right or wrong, that triggers people to think that something's going on with the home. You priced it too high to begin with. Maybe there's a reason why people aren't attracted to it. What's going on? So what it does is it throws a shadow of doubt over that property. And anytime you have a shadow of doubt thrown over that property, what happens is you're going to have less potential buyers for your property. So be very careful. Be very careful in the way that you price your home. The last thing I'm going to do to cover before we finish up today is, as a seller, this is the part that I see a lot of times people miss out on and they don't really plan for, and it's a big mistake. And real estate agents out there, if you're listening, make sure you work with your sellers to plan for this. The thing that I see a lot is sellers don't plan for the purchase side. What I mean by that is they get so caught up in how much I'm going to get for my house and preparing their house to sell, they don't prepare for what's going to happen once they sell their house and the strategy to go buy another home. I see this happen too often, and so to hopefully help you out there save some challenges and problems, do spend as much time as you can on preparing for the plans and the strategy to purchase the home as you do to sell your home. So what does that mean? What that means is, once you get your home squared away, you're going to list it, you have a certain listing price, once that's ready to go, then start doing a little bit of work with your lender on what you're approved for on a purchase and do some hypotheticals. If you put your house on the market for $1 million and you think, gosh, it might sell for 1.1 or it might sell for under $1 million, do some hypotheticals based on worst case, best case. I always tell people, do a hypothetical based on worst case, you sell your house for $950, best case, you sell your house for 1.1. Just do some variables. Take a look at those, see what that looks like. Make sure you're pre-approved for that purchase. The other thing I want to talk about, you've heard me talk about this, and you probably don't hear a lot of people talk about it in the lending business because they're not either educated on it, they're not familiar with them, or they're uncomfortable about them, and they don't want to talk about them. But I will, because this is a great program, the cross-collateralized program, the cross-collateral program. You've heard me talk a lot about this, and forgive me for those that already understand it, but there's a lot of people out there just tuning in the show that don't know that. This program has been extremely popular and valuable to sellers that don't know enough information about it, and their real estate agents and their lenders aren't educated on, so they don't tell them. Call me, email me, ask me questions about this. I hate to have anybody lose out on a situation because they're not educated on this program. What this allows you to do, if you're working with someone that understands these programs like myself, you're potentially able to, once you list your home or before you list your home or while you do, you'll be able to buy a home before you sell your home. And some people would say, Joe, well, I can't do that. Yes, you can. You'd be surprised. Now, it's not for everybody. It doesn't mean every single person can do this. All I'm saying is this is the formula to look for. If you meet this criteria, give me a call and let me know. If the home you're selling has 50% or better equity, okay, so quick math, if your home is valued at $1 million, you're putting it on the market and you owe $500,000 or less on that property, you are a candidate for a cross-collateral loan to go purchase a home before you sell your home. Someone might be saying, well, Joe, why would I do that? Well, you may not want to, but a lot of people do want to because they want the ability to buy before they sell. Because what if you find the home you really like and you can't make an offer on that home because you can't put a non-contingent offer on it? See, if you find a house you really like and your home's still on the market, most people think, gosh, I'm stuck because my real estate agent or my lender said that you can't make an offer on that home unless you sell your home or unless you're in contract. That's not true. A lot of people are surprised when I run them through this scenario and this option where you could buy that home before you sell your home. And it's a cross-collateral program. I'll run through it real quick, but again, it's a little bit complicated, so it's hard to describe when you're listening to a podcast. All I could tell you is keep these couple things in mind. If you're selling your home again and you have 50% or better equity in your home, then you are a candidate, number one, and to possibly buy before you sell. Here's the other thing we could do. What we do is the way we do this is we leverage the equity in your existing home, your departing residence. We virtually leverage that equity to help you purchase your new home, temporarily get your financing until you sell your home, and then you can come in, wipe out that loan, get a permanent loan. It's a great program. Also, we have the ability to pledge assets and leverage against assets. What's that mean? So let's say you're trying to buy a home before selling your home, and you're stuck because you can't quite do it, or you're nervous about it, or maybe you don't know about these programs. And let's say you have $2 or $3 million in investable assets. We have investors that will look at those assets, and what they do is they pledge against them. So you say, well, gee, I'd love to be able to go buy that home, but I need 20% down in order to make that work, and I can't get to 20% unless I sell my home. So I need $200,000. If I had $200,000, I can make this transaction work. Guess what? We have investors that could look at your assets, literally loan you the money, right? Get you that $200,000 based on the assets that you have, help you do that transaction, come up with the 20% down before you sell your home, and then when you sell your home, you can go back and pay that investment back to yourself that you took from. There are a lot of different ways to do this. Now, if some people are listening to us, they're going, Joe, this is way too complicated, and it's a Ponzi scheme and all this kind of stuff. Seriously, for those that have been following the show for 8 years, you know me. I'm not going to talk about something if it's not true, if it's not ethical, and if it's not above board. I'm just not. This is just a program that a lot of people don't know about. They don't educate themselves about it, and it's a shame because I've helped so many people in the last couple of years in this program that could never have done the transaction if not for this program when it become available. So all I want to do is say this before I close out the show today. If you're in the position to sell and you're not quite sure, maybe you don't want to go on the market yet because you're apprehensive about not being able to buy before you sell, you're not sure if you could do this, you're not sure if your house is ready, you really want to go, this helps people too, you really want to go buy a house, but you're concerned because, I had this situation come up. Someone wanted to go purchase a home, but because their parents and a family member that was disabled that was living in that home for a while, they couldn't just kick them out. So they said, Joe, listen, we want to try to buy a home. We want to try to buy this home before we sell their home. Now, once we buy a home and we move out, then we need about 4 or 5 months to get them situated, but we can't just kick them out of the house. I said, understood. Absolutely. So we did a cross-collateral loan for them, and that's exactly what we did. I had a lady also that was selling her home in Santa Clara and moving to Morgan Hill. Her home in Santa Clara was worth about $1 million, maybe a little bit more, 1.1. She was buying in Morgan Hill for $865. She owned her home free and clear here in Santa Clara. Guess what? We leveraged the equity in that property. She said, Joe, I want to buy this home, but I talked to my real estate agent. This place needs a lot of work. And I've lived here for 40 years, and we're going to need a lot of cleanup, but it's going to take us months. Perfect. Let's look at a cross-collateral program. Let's go ahead. Let me show you how you could buy this home before you sell your home. This was perfect. We were able to give her 100% financing because her home here was free and clear. We leveraged the equity in that property. We gave our client 100% financing, $865,000 we lent her, right? Zero down, $865,000, 100% financing to buy that home before she sold her home. And now guess what? In the next couple of months, she's going to put her home on the market. She's going to sell it. Once she sells it, she'll come in and pay off that loan, and she'll be good to go. These are the kinds of things that are happening all the time. I'll give you one more scenario. The client right now that we just finished, the same type of thing, except it was reversed. Their home right now they were selling was 1.5. They were looking to buy a home at $2 million. They only owed $300,000 on their 1.5, so we had a lot of equity there. And we did the same thing. We used the leverage, the equity in that property to help them go buy that home. In this case, they wanted to put 10% down, and the income ratios were close, so we did require 10% down instead of 100% financing. So we got them 90% financing. They only put 10% down on that $2 million home, and we did the deal. Closed the transaction while their home was still on the market, and guess what? They're not stressed out because they don't have to worry about selling their home now. And here's the other part of this, ladies and gentlemen. Don't feel like you have to fire sell your home to go buy a home. I see this happen sometimes too. We caught a couple just in time for this. They were moving from here to Arizona. They were selling their house in Saratoga. They said, gosh, we put our house on the market, Joe. We haven't been getting any offers, and we don't want to fire sell this thing. We think we could get this, but we think it's just a timing play. And my real estate agent keeps telling us to drop the price, and we all know it's probably worth this, but it's probably just a timing play. So guess what? Talked about the cross program. We put the financing together. We allowed them to buy the place in Arizona, and guess what? They were thinking about dropping their house $150,000. They stopped. They didn't do it. Listen to this. I think they're listening for one. I think it was 2-1 or 2-2. So instead, we got them the cross program. They bought their place in Arizona. So they didn't take that advice. In other words, they said, hold on, we got this cross program. Let's just keep it at 2.1, right? They wanted them to drop it to, I think under 1 million, 1.9 something. It was about 150,000. They said, hold off. Let's give it a chance. Got them into the cross program, helped them buy the Arizona property. Guess what happened 30 days later after we were getting ready to close on the Arizona property? They got the asking price for their home in Saratoga. $150,000 that they would have lost. $150,000. Some people say, that's a lot of money. I don't care how much money you have. That is a lot of money to give to someone else or to lose. And they were able to capture that and not lose the $150,000 because we got them in this program. So, as I finish up today, great time. It is here. The weather's warm. I guarantee you the next several months it's going to heat up. Whether you're a buyer or seller, we're here to help. If you want any more information, you can always go to RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Or you can always reach me during the week, 408-838-9060. Thanks again for tuning in. Have a great afternoon. Take care.
You've been listening to Real Estate Radio Live. For more information on today's program, visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Subscribe to our podcast. Discover more at RERadiolive.com.